Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the quarterly dairy legal update, which is a webinar that we started about a little over a year ago, doing on a quarterly basis. Our targeted topic today is on the USDA's Pandemic Market Volatility Assistance Program and the Dairy Donation Program, and that will be presented by Brooke Dewar, our staff attorney. This is the fifth webinar in this series. So we started last October, and each of the prior webinars is available for viewing on our website. So we would encourage you to go. You can look in the events page and go back and look at each event specifically for the event, and all of the materials, the webinar and any of the supplementary materials will be available on the events page for each of these webinars. And just to mention our website, I want to encourage you to check out our website. Again, on the events page, for each program that we do, we have a specific page that where if registration is required, you can register, and then after the event, you can get any of those materials. Also, I want to highlight the Agricultural Law Weekly Review. That's a publication that we produce each week, which provides highlights of legal developments from the past week. And you can sign up for a distribution list to get that emailed directly to you, or you can go to our website to access that. And that contains, in addition to all of the kind of the narrative developments, a lot of legislative developments, a lot of links to resources that other similar centers across the country have done, as well as work product that we have done here at Penn State as well. And you can see in the chat box, our website address has been posted in the chat box. So with these webinars, in the quarterly dairy legal webinar series, we follow a typical pattern in each of these, where we start off by spending about 15 minutes or 20 minutes talking about developments over the past quarter. And so this webinar will be looking at the third quarter of 2021. We also have started producing a publication that's called the dairy, or the quarterly dairy legal update, which basically provides in a narrative form a lot of the things that we talk about in this 15-minute segment. Following that, we have the targeted topic, and again today it's on the Pandemic Market Volatility Assistance Program and the Dairy Donation Program. And then we try to leave a few minutes for questions as well. I want to thank our partners, in particular the National Agricultural Library. We get funding to support our programs, including this program, from USDA's National Ag Library through the National Agricultural Law Center. So, our thanks to them for enabling us to put this work together. I want to highlight a couple programs that we have coming up. Last year, we did an online symposium in conjunction with the Farm Show, and we will be repeating that again this year. So on the Tuesday and Thursday of the Farm Show, January 11th and 13th, we will be conducting the second annual Pennsylvania Farm Show Agricultural Law Symposium. You will be getting, I anticipate most of you will be getting emails from us advertising that. You can also go on our website to register. It's free for those Pennsylvania attorneys with us. You can get four CLE credits for participating in the program. And also then the date for our next quarterly dairy webinar will be February 15th, and we'll be talking about carbon reduction programs. Okay, so today's agenda, Chloe Marie, our research specialist, is going to be giving us an update of the last quarter. And then, as I mentioned, Brooke Doer will be moving into the USDA programs. Just some ground rules about the. Do we have a slide? I guess moving ahead. Actually, I think I forgot to include the slide with the ground rules. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A function or in the Q&A section, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the program. Also, for CLE, just as part of our obligations to the CLE board, we have to confirm attendance. So we'll be giving 2 code words. And so when you fill out, and I guess I should mention about filling out the CLE form, we'll be putting a link in the chat box, and it's there right now. So for those of you that want CLE credits, you can get 1 CLE credit for this program. Please submit that form by tomorrow. Just because of the holiday, people being off and things, we'd like to get that taken care of as soon as possible. So please, it's a very simple form. Please submit that today or no later than tomorrow, and we will get you your credit. On that form, you will have to put in the 2 code words that we will be providing to you during this program. So just, as soon as we give you those words, then you can fill out the form and submit that. So with no further ado, I will turn it over to Chloe to tell us what has been happening over the last quarter.
Thank you, Russ. So things have kept busy during the course of last summer. And today I will cover legal and policy developments that occurred in the dairy industry during the 3rd quarter of 2021, so from July to September. I'm going to address some regulatory actions that have been taken by the Pennsylvania Milk Marketing Board and the USDA, as well as some US regional dairy and labeling issues. And I will finish by quickly covering international dairy developments. But before I start, for those who would like some CLE credits, the first code is update. All right, so on September 8th, the Pennsylvania Milk Marketing Board issued a bulletin establishing a minimum price enforcement policy for wholesale sales to USDA. This bulletin was issued in response to an incident where Upstate Niagara Cooperative, which is a Pennsylvania licensed milk dealer, sold milk to USDA for the Emergency Food Assistance Program at prices lower than those established by the board, therefore in violation of Section 807 of the Milk Marketing Law. So the enforcement policy sets out that bids below the applicable minimum price will be referred for potential prosecution, and that the board also may refer for potential prosecution any sales made at below minimum prices based on contracts awarded pursuant to illegal bids. So ultimately, the milk dealer submitted a proposed consent order to the board, which was accepted on August 11th. It acknowledged the violation and agreed to settle the dispute through the payment of approximately $36,000. Now, another development. On September 22nd, the board entered an official general order continuing the current $1 per hundredweight over-order premium for all Class 1 milk that is produced, processed, and sold in Pennsylvania for the next 6 months. So effective October 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. This over-order premium, which is set in 6 months intervals, has remained $1 since April 2019. Now about USDA. So within the space of a few short days, USDA first announced in August the upcoming availability of the Pandemic Market Volatility Assistance Program, and then the establishment of the Dairy Donation Program. So both programs are part of a $6 billion pandemic assistance from USDA to the dairy industry. But I won't get into the details here, as my colleague Brooke will address these 2 programs in the second part of this webinar. And last, in July 2021, a group of small Class 1 milk distributing plants petitioned the USDA to amend the federal milk marketing order system to exempt small class 1 distributing plants with root cells below 3 million pounds of milk per month from pooling obligations. Petitioners ask that small distributing plants be treated in the same manner as producer enders who received an exemption, in 2010 from pooling obligations. So according to the petition, this request was motivated by a very volatile year in terms of milk pricing, largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic, where the price of class 3 milk became higher than that of class 1 milk, thus creating a negative producer price differential and putting a financial strain on small class 1 milk enders forced to pay into the pool. They wrote in their petition that such change would reduce the regulatory burden for both small enders and USDA without having a significant impact on orderly marketing and federal order pool values. However, last month, the Agricultural Marketing Service denied their request. It explained that allowing small distributing plants to become exempt from federal pooling obligations would have a negative impact on milk prices received by dairy farmers. So that's done for the regulatory developments. Now regarding US regional dairy issues, in early July, eligible California milk producers voted on whether to terminate the state's quota implementation plan effective March 1st, 2025. And they decided to continue with the government-run program for an indefinite period. So this decision came after almost 3 years of discussion and concerns about the fate of the quota program, since the handling of milk in California became regulated under a federal milk marketing order in June 2018. Different dairy stakeholders have pushed for some amendments to the state-run program, including the immediate termination of it. Though these attempts failed, a group known as United Dairy Families of California later on proposed the California Department of Food and Agriculture a gradual termination of the program over a 5-year period with equalized regional quota adjusters to give milk producers the time to transition to a business model without quota income. UDFC also proposed the implementation of equalized regional quota adjusters, which would provide a cumulative payment of $300 per round of quota that would be distributed over the 5-year period to help quota purchasers recoup at least 80% of the investment by the end of the program. So this proposal was submitted to a referendum, but it fell short of the needed votes to pass the referendum. Nearly 80% of eligible producers voted in favor of this referendum. However, termination of the quota program required an affirmative vote from either 65% of the voters who produce 51% of the total milk, or 51% of the voters who produce 65% of the total milk. And these thresholds were not met. So this means that the quota program remains in force, but given the fact that this is an issue of particular importance, it is likely that we may hear about it again in the near future. So on August 25th, Governor of Maine, Janet Mills, along with the State Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, issued in a press release that it is researching ways to assist 14 Maine organic dairy producers that received notices of non-renewal of their milk contracts with Horizon Organics, owned by French company Danone. The termination date is set in August 2022. Governor Mills called it a devastating setback for Maine's organic dairy community. It has been reported that Horizon Organics sent similar notices to dairy farmers located in the states of Vermont, Maine, New York, and New Hampshire. The Northeast Organic Dairy Producers Alliance said that 89 letters were sent to farmers across the states. But more recently, a coalition of US senators and members of Congress even wrote to Secretary Vilsack asking USDA for support for their farmers that were likely to face dramatic market loss. In that regard, they asked the department to close any loopholes that exist in a rule governing how livestock are transitioned to organic, and to enhance enforcement of the pasture rule, especially for large-scale complex dairies. So we're now waiting for any response from USDA. So there has also been a recent development this last summer about the labeling of plant-based dairy alternatives all the way from California, where on August 10th, a federal district court ruled that Nyoko's Kitchen, an American plant-based food producer that specializes in dairy-free products, could use dairy terms like butter to describe its vegan butter products on packaging. So it all started in December 2019 when the California Department of Food and Agriculture sent a letter to Nyoko's Kitchen after it reviewed one of Nyoko's products that bore the label cultured vegan plant butter. The department asked Nyoko's to review the label to comply with federal and state regulations because the product is not butter as per the federal definition of butter. Basically, the department said that the product label was misleading to the public. And in addition to the term butter, the claims lactose-free, hormone-free, and cruelty-free, as well as a picture representing a woman hugging a cow figured on the packaging. And the department requested that Nyoko's remove these claims and picture from the label, as it unfairly implies that bovine dairy products cannot possess these qualities. The label also read revolutionizing dairy with plants, and CDFA also wanted that claim removed because the product at issue is made entirely of plant oils and does not originate from an animal. So in February 2020, Nyoko's filed a lawsuit against CDFA under the US Constitution First Amendment, challenging the regulatory authority of the state and arguing that such action does suppress freedom of speech and does not directly prevent consumer deception. On the other hand, the state argued that the long-time federal definition of butter, which has been enacted since 1923, accurately reflects what consumers believe is butter. So the court agreed in part with Nyoko's and held that, quote, quite simply, language evolves, and rejected that the 90-year-old federal definition bears heavily on consumers' understanding of butter. As a result, the court ruled that the state cannot restrict Nyoko's use of the terms butter, lactose-free, cruelty-free, and revolutionizing dairy with plants on the product label. However, the court sided with the state as to the use of the claim hormone-free, as it is not constitutionally protected commercial speech. And no appeal has been filed within the appeal period. So finally, on the other side of the ocean, the European Commission decided on August 10 to postpone the initial implementation date for the European Union's new animal health certificate requirements from August 21st, 2021 to January 15, 2022. And this news was particularly well received by the US dairy industry. Some dairy groups had difficulty with some of these new certificate requirements, including new procedures for process verification that went beyond what was already set by the World Organization for Animal Health. They were also concerned about more frequent veterinary inspections to check for signs of foot and mouth disease and rinderpest virus, as well as burdensome record-keeping requirements. And they expressed some concerns that these new requirements would have negative direct and indirect impacts on US dairy trade. Actually, in a letter sent to the USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack, the US Dairy Export Council and National Milk Producers Federation declared that the implementation of these new requirements by August 21st was simply not realistic, given the changes to be made, and expressed their frustration over an inevitable disruption of trade relationships between the US and the European Union if the situation was not improved. So in order to ease the transition and, quote, to avoid any unnecessary disruptions, the European Commission agreed to delay the implementation dates. In the meantime, USDA announced on August 23rd that it will, quote, endorse and issue the new health certificates through its EU dairy export certification programs, and that it will make some changes to the certification program to check existing records at milk processing facilities or dairy cooperative milk suppliers to minimize the impacts of the new requirements on the US dairy industry. So this is all I have for this third quarter. Now I will hand it to you, Brooke.